Hi guys, welcome to the podcast. Before we start, we just want to introduce you to our sponsor. Our sponsor is the Twitter handle @MugsNFL. They're a company that offer a range of custom items such as mugs, t-shirts, crewneck jumpers, and hoodies, all customized with your favorite sports player or your sports team. That can be any sport ranging from the NFL through to the NBA to UK sports. All you have to do for an extra 10% off your order is drop them a message on Twitter quoting our podcast, that is the Hardwood Hoops podcast, and they'll get 10% off your next order. Cheers and enjoy the show. Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 7 of the Hardwood Hoops podcast. We've got a real special episode lined up today. Ben is going to sit down and interview our good friend Joel Richards, talk about all things basketball, how he got into the sport, and also mainly talk about NBA shoes. Joel is a sneakerhead and also a basketball player and coach, so I'm sure it's going to be a real good interview. Unfortunately, I couldn't be part of the interview, but I'm sure Ben can take the reins on this one. Alongside this, though, I just wanted to announce that with this episode, we're going to be doing a giveaway. We have a giveaway arranged with our sponsors, who are @MugsNFL. And the giveaway is for a free customized mug of your choice to the winner. All details on how to enter are going to be on our Twitter page at @_HardwoodHoops. The plan is to announce the winner during our podcast next week, but then also tweet out that winner so we can get the details as soon as possible. And then we can get the mug sent out in the post to you. It's just a bit of a thank you really for all the listeners and all the retweets and stuff and all the support we've been getting. So we hope you enjoy the giveaway. I'm going to pass on now to Ben, who's going to interview Joel. I know it's going to be a good one, so enjoy and I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers.
Hello, thank you for that lovely introduction, Liam. Liam can't be with us right now because he's had to take his dog to the vets, but luckily this is a guest episode. And joining me now is Joel Richards. Hi, Joel. How are you?
Yeah, it's good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Now, Joel, our fans might be wondering why you're here and how do we know you? So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, you and I both know each other from university. We were at USW, University of South Wales, for 3 years together. And I think got to know each other very well through our kind of mutual love for basketball. So that's how we both know each other. And then through extension and a couple of pickup games, I kind of know Liam as well through that then. So
very good. Yeah, no, we were housemates for one of those years, but it feels like more, the amount of time we spent at each other's houses. And like you said, we played on the USW team there together. What about your sort of journey through basketball? When did you start playing? How long have you played for? Who do you play for now?
Yeah, so actually I started playing basketball when I was 10. So going all that way back, really. So I was 10 years old when I picked it up, probably about year 6 in school. And unfortunately, going forward, my school did it. So from year 7 to year 11, that was kind of my passion and my love. And I'm fortunate my school did it because a lot of schools in South Wales, especially in South Wales, don't do a lot of basketball. And at the time, I was desperate to find a new sport because rugby and football kind of were on and off relationships with me that I just loved them for a minute and hated them because there was so much to do with body size and things like that. But basketball was more skill-based, and I just love the fact that to be better at basketball, you have to practice more. So through school, I learned how to play basketball, and coincidentally, there was a local club just down the road from my house. So by the time I was 14, I was training with the senior men's at Al Valley Hurricanes, and I went on to play for them, their under-18s and the school, up until I was 18. Went on to university, so we both were teammates in the USW team, which in the second year, the first team went on and lost to Plymouth in the Bucks final that year. And I captained them the year after, and that year we lost all the games and got relegated. So that was my great captaincy that year. And currently I play and coach for Caerphilly Cobras in South Wales Division 1, and I also teach that's my job really. So trying to bring basketball relevant to Cardiff and South Wales, hopefully.
Lovely. Yeah, no, that all sounds really, really good. It's nice to like hear your passion was from an early age. Was it because you just sort of picked up a basketball and wanted to play, or like me, was it you saw something that brought you into the game? What kind of got you there?
It's quite random, really, because I played rugby for a lot of time before I was 10, and I found that I was really skinny, quite lanky at that time, and body size had a massive factor in rugby, and I just got pushed over, knocked over, and it was quite hard to keep up, especially with the bigger kids. So I remember when I was in year 6, there was this random poster that said there was basketball in the local leisure centre, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting, give it a go. And I think there was 2 weeks that I went, and the club just disappeared then. So I was very disappointed. But then when I went into my school in year 7, basketball was a big part of the curriculum, especially towards Christmas time. So when I got that, then my eyes just opened to how good basketball can be, really, and my love just blossomed from there for the game then.
Yeah, we're both really lucky that our secondary schools in particular pushed it as a sport. I know the year above me in particular were very, very good, and it sort of filtered down then. The success sort of got our juices flowing and wanted us to play. So we were very fortunate. Like you said, there's not a lot of school, or there's sometimes not a lot of schools that don't push it as much as I feel that they should.
No, definitely. And, I'm so grateful for my PE teacher to have that drive and that kind of engagement to push basketball as a main sport, really. And still to this day, I've got a good relationship with him, and he still loves basketball so much. And, our year group in school, I think we only ever lost about 2 games in the whole time we were there. And that was to the same team from England that we played up in Essex. Mm-hmm. So like the passion was so good in the school that he'd organise a trip every year to Essex and take a team up, and we'd play 2 teams up in Basildon. And, for us, really, in South Wales, once you beat the so-called best team around by 20, 30 points, it's hard to find other competition. So going to England and kind of seeing that level where basketball's promoted more, just kind of give us that kind of burning urge then to kind of win more. And I remember the team we played actually, was a Catholic school, and they beat us the first year on free throws. Ooh. So it was the final second of the game. They had 2 free throws to win it. They hit them, and that was it. Then we lost by 1. And then the year after, we went up and we thought, come on, we've improved now. We're looking good. We turned up, sat down on the benches, and one of their guys just come up, dunked on the ring, looked at us, and then we thought, oh, well, they've definitely improved since last year, and I think we lost by 30 points. So,
oh dear.
Difference a year can make, eh?
Yeah, it often does. But the another reason why we've got you on today is, while I lived with you, I got to know you very, very well, and know that you're a bit of a collector. You like collecting things. And one of the things at the time when we were at uni, I'm not sure if you've kept it up, was you were collecting shoes. So we thought we'd get you on this week and have a little chat about shoes, basketball and non-basketball in some cases, and get your opinions on a couple as well, get my opinions on a couple, and maybe get the opinions of some of our listeners, find out what everybody plays in, those kind of things. Thought it'd be a really good, a really interesting episode.
Yes, can't wait.
So first things first, tell us, what basketball shoe do you play in right now?
So right now, I'm working my way through the Kyrie 5s. So I've just burnt out the Kyrie 3s. So I've bumped up to the 5s now, which nice. Pretty good shoes. Not my favourite, but kind of for the ankle support and kind of the restriction they got, they're pretty good. So
what would you say is your favourite pair that you've ever owned then? What's your extensive list?
So my favourite pair of all time that I've worn and I played in is the LeBron 10 All-Stars, which were the Area 72s. So first of all, they were purple. One?
Yeah.
They were purple. They lit up when you took flash photos of them, which I thought was an extra kind of selling point for me. And just, I wore those for about 3 seasons, which is probably the longest I've ever worn a pair of shoes. And sadly, I broke them out just before lockdown, and the air bubble popped during training, so they've been resigned to the shelf now, which is very sad. And I'm very, very, very disappointed with. But they're very good. They were quite high for what I usually like, but LeBron 10s are probably my favourite basketball shoe that I played in and that kind of I like to chase.
Yeah.
But the Kyries are kind of there. They're similar, but also I enjoyed the KDs, the KD 7s, which were low. They were probably my second favourite shoe. They were so low that very responsive, very quick, and still tend to play in those if the basketball courts are not dusty. But
yeah,
as my ankles are getting weaker and I'm tripping over thin air usually, I kind of need that ankle support now. So I think I've gone for the 3s that were gifted to me by some of the kids that I coach, and the 5s that I bought kind of just to support my ankles more than anything really.
Yeah, I've found that, but I've had 2 major ankle injuries, and both have come from basketball, even though it's not been my main sport. So I tend to go from a higher shoe, although I love the look of a slightly lower shoe.
Yeah.
I think my first basketball shoe was like a Hyper Dunk. They're sort of a classic, just boring old shoe, generic Nike Hyper Dunk. And then I followed those up with the LeBron 8s, the postseason ones. They're black, white sole, red laces. And I still have them and still playing them now when I do very rarely lace up and play nowadays. But they've been great. They've been such a nice shoe to play in. So and they're a higher shoe, and I tend to get those right up around my ankles where I can. I think I've said before, I'm a smaller guy, but I like to play bigger than I am. So trying to get into the post in those is quite nice. But there's also the movement in them.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the issues with obviously the bigger shoes, like your LeBron 10s and your Kyries, is they do creep up the ankle a bit more. So you lose that kind of, especially if you're a guard, you lose that sideways motion, which like the low KDs and the low Kobe's kind of give you. But then obviously running the risk of rolling your ankle or standing on someone's foot. So it's a trade-off really.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So if, like I said, I love the look of a slightly lower shoe usually. Are there any shoes out there that you wish you could have owned, if you had all the money in the world, which ones would you go for and why?
Right, so this list could go on for several pages.
Yeah,
so I've narrowed it down to 3 to kind of keep the pace of it all really.
Yeah, they don't necessarily have to be basketball shoes either. Go further afield if you need to.
Yeah, but great, because obviously I love basketball, I love the shoes. So I kept 2 basketball shoes, and I've gone for one that I tried to get in the last couple of weeks, and I failed, and I'm gutted, but we will talk about it. So my first one is the LeBron 10s, but the cork versions.
Okay.
So I love the shoe, like the angles on the side of the ankle. Such a nice looking shoe, and the cork was kind of like a cork board look all around the shoe. And I think even to this day, when Nike have tried to do the cork versions of other shoes, they just kind of failed to hit the mark. Whereas the LeBron 10s just kind of was almost like a Jordan kind of shoe, that it looked like you could play in it, but also had the style that you could wear it out. And again, I tried to get that shoe, failed, and I've seen a couple of my mates who had a pair, and I was just so jealous that they had them, and still eats me up to this day that I couldn't get a pair. But so that's number 1. Number 2 is the KD 6 and pearls, which one of the colorways that they release every single year, specifically for Kevin Durant. So it's based on his aunt Pearl, who died of lung cancer in 2000, and it's usually a pink with a blue or a floral pattern. So
that's nice.
Kind of for like cancer awareness and things like that. So they're really good and look good.
It's nice that he's been able to add that sort of extra meaning to it, and it's not just a shoe that looks nice, whatever. There's an extra little bit to it.
Yeah, definitely. And the flowers are supposed to represent the robe that she used to wear. And you know me, I absolutely love wearing shoes that are different. Like
Yes.
when the Kyrie SpongeBob's came out, I think my eyes lit up and I was just drooling over every single style they made of the SpongeBob's just because they were so different. So the
Yeah.
Anthos are definitely up there. Like, who would want to wear pink basketball shoes? Like, I'd definitely give it a go. And
No,
then last on my list, my wish list, was the Ben and Jerry's Chunky Dunks.
I've seen those around. Yeah.
So seeing those and seeing how good they looked are just like kind of the cool factor. Obviously not most people, but someone who likes Ben and Jerry's and also likes Nike shoes, it was kind of a definite hit for me. And I was up at 8 in the morning. I signed in, got on Nike and sneakers app, put it in, waited 5 minutes, and they were all sold out. So I was
Wow.
just very disappointed. But that's the shoe game, unfortunately. But what about you? Have you got a shoe wish list?
Yeah. The shoe that I've always wanted was the LeBron fives.
Yeah,
No, the LeBron sixes. Sorry. Especially there's two editions that I really love, and a couple that take my eye. The first one is the All Star edition. Playing for the East, he was in the blue, and they've just got this real nice navy blue color that sort of fades into this like electric blue, and it's so nice. The other one is there's a grey, primarily grey version with a white Nike tick with some electric blue trim. Just fantastic. And then on your sort of theme of a slightly brighter or sillier shoe draws your attention, I remember they brought out a Stewie Griffin version,
yes, I remember.
uh, sort of a yellow front and tongue, and a fake blue sort of dungaree strap over the front toes. It was they're quite nice and comical at the same time. So that's like my dream shoe if ever I got one. In fact, funny story about it. I did try to order a pair online, much like you have,
Yeah,
and was successful. However, then I was quite young at the time. I ordered. They came to my house. I was so excited, and I opened the box, and they'd sent me the LeBron 6 Soldiers.
oh,
I was gutted. I couldn't believe it. Um, and I'm not sure, looking back at it in hindsight, whether they were real or not anyway. So I sent them back and got my money back and stuff, but that broke me. That did. I was absolutely gutted.
so where did you order them from?
That's a good question. Some site somewhere they came from somewhere. I'm not sure. Nowhere legit. I don't think. I think I got them off eBay to be honest.
Oh, well, lesson learned there. Yeah?
Oh,
Buy
most
from
certainly.
legit sellers.
Yeah, exactly. Another pair that I absolutely love is well on your theme. You've got some Kyries. The Kyrie one, when that came out, I lost count of the amount of hours on Nike Nike ID customizing them, knowing full well I'd never be able to afford them. But I just loved the way the sole grip sort of bit up into the toe grip, and it was like those sort of teeth marks. And they're a similar shape to the LeBron sixes, which is probably another reason why I quite like them. That sort of mid top, not quite high, not quite low, and just the amount of, like I said, the amount of colors you can get with them, customizing them. I think they're a gorgeous shoe, absolutely incredible. So that would be like dream basketball shoes. In terms of like your everyday shoe, there was a shoe collection that came out by Adidas. That, well, as mentioned on the podcast previously, quite a big movie buff, and one of the biggest franchises I love, been a little bit nerdy too, is Star Wars. So Adidas brought out a collaboration. I've done it a couple of times now with Star Wars, and they brought out some really nice Star Wars themed shoes. So if I could get my hands on that collection, I'd be a very happy boy. And sort of round that off as well is the self-lacing Nikes from Back to the Future.
Yeah, the Air Mags.
Yeah, because I know they're sort of in development, but and any
sold them
money
already.
They've sold them all, because I know any money used to pay for them goes to the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously those are incredible. Just sat there watching them lace themselves up, thinking, "Wow! Imagine if I didn't have to bend over and tie my laces every time. Just slip my foot in, tie them up." And I loved the way they looked as well. I mean, they were high.
Very high, and they're quite iconic, but they're one of those shoes that you look at and you think no one would not want those in their collection, would they? They look that good. But
go on.
That technology that they use for the Air Mags is now being used in the Adapts. I don't know if you've seen those yet, but they've had about 4 or 5 shoe releases that have used Nike Adapt, and one of the guys in basketball has actually got them, and there's 2 buttons just under your heel, just under the arch of your foot.
Yeah.
So when you put the shoe on, you just press the button, and then it self-laces and tightens to your foot.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of like the real world application to that Air Mag now, which is quite interesting, considering 10 years ago, you probably couldn't imagine a shoe without laces at all, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But definitely got to break the bank to get those. They don't come cheap.
I can imagine. Have you got a rough idea of how much you think they're?
£300, roughly. Minimum, I think.
Wow.
I know. So they even released the Air Max versions, which are like red and white to go with the Air Max Nike themes. So they're kind of obviously moving towards the everyday use of it as well.
Okay. Have you got, just like off the top of your head, any like shoes you remember seeing on court or off court and like falling in love with as well? Just if there's any others off the top of your head. Because I've got a pair in front of me right now. I'll tell you, one of the players got some serious shoe game, and that is Karl Anthony Towns. He's got a couple of pairs of custom basketball shoes. He's got a Rick and Morty pair. But the one that's got me, he's got one with Goku on, knowing we both have a love for Dragon Ball Z as well. And he's in the Kamehameha stance with the Nike tick coming out of his hands, and it's glowing.
Love that.
I didn't really know those existed till today, until I was like looking into some shoes and doing some research, and they are gorgeous.
Yeah, you've got to look like custom shoes they probably are the future, and which is why so many NBA players tend to go towards the custom side of things.
Yeah, it's only a recent development as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's good, obviously, with the Black Lives Matter cause as well. It kind of gives them... So I won't be surprised when the NBA resumes that the majority of players will have their shoes customised for some sort of message, like obviously with the jerseys as well.
Yeah.
But it's another way to stand out, you know, and it's great.
Yeah, definitely. You see a lot of players with like sort of little written messages or little slogos written on, and you see them odd colours and things. But I don't think it's that common to see a properly customised shoe where they've taken it away and it's a one-of-a-kind type job.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Having the opportunity to do that now, because the league lifted the sanction on the fact that the shoes had to sort of match the kit, essentially. What was that, 2 seasons ago? I think they changed that rule. And now, you know, everybody's lifted their shoe game massively. You know, it's come on leaps and bounds, I think, and I love it. I think it's great. Love to see more of it.
Definitely, I totally agree. Like I'm a massive advocate of shoes, and I think it's quite old school that the NBA hasn't allowed it for so long.
Yeah,
like just makes you think back to when apparently Jordan was getting fined for wearing the Air Jordan 1s, which was one of those kind of rumors, or kind of did it happen, didn't it? But You know, especially, and good for us, we are nerds, you know, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, things like that. So especially when I see someone like, probably couldn't name one, but when you see someone wearing a customized shoe of a show that you like, you kind of think, oh my God, like, who is this guy? I'll find more about him. So it kind of opens that NBA player base up to more people that probably don't get the love they deserve, you know?
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's a really, really good point. And just, well, putting you on the spot again, off the top of your head, is there a pair of shoes you've bought and worn that now looking back you think, why did I do that?
Oh, good question. There are a pair, so you know how much I love Nike.
I do.
Bit bad, but I do love my Nike shoes. And there's a pair of shoes that I bought purely because they were in the sale. That I think is the Air Mox, but basically are trainer slippers. So they are brown kind of suede material that slip on your foot. So they kind of look like an Inuit or like an Alaskan kind of slipper, but Nike's version.
Yes.
So bought those thinking, yeah, well, you know, it'd be nice to have kind of like a slipper trainer in the house if I want to pop to the shops, things like that. First day I put them on, I don't think I've ever had as much kind of verbal abuse from friends, family, and even my fiance. And those shoes have sadly creeped towards the back of the wardrobe, only to be worn in privacy, I think.
Yeah, when everybody else is away.
Yeah, and they seemed like a good idea at the time. I still like them, purely for the comfort rather than the look. And when some basketball games had a lot of bad looks, and I also had a lot of bad words said at me for them. But yeah, you know, sometimes comfort's better than style, and sometimes style wins over comfort, sadly. But those are probably my worst decision for a shoe, if I had to pick. What about yours?
I've definitely bought a shoe over style rather than comfort. There was one time I remember buying it. It was just a running trainer, and I picked it because it looked nicer than another one. Again, I was very young, and I wore it all evening, and took the shoe off, and my foot was just bleeding everywhere. It had rubbed so badly. I had the biggest blisters, and then they all popped, and then they just bled everywhere. But I refused to take it off because I thought if I then went back to my mum and said, "Oh no, it doesn't fit right," and I've like begged her for me to get this shoe, she would have absolutely killed me. So that was one. But I had another one as well. I can't remember if I had these when we went to uni or not. I had a pair of. I stand by. They are a great looking shoe. I think they look lush. However, I don't know if I'd ever wear them ever again. But I had a pair of Supra Vaders. They're like a high top, and they were completely white. Had a slight pattern in the side, but they were white. White sole, white laces, just white, like snow. I don't know if that's a thing anymore.
But I don't know if I can remember them, or I don't think if my brain wants to remember them.
Could have blocked them out. You might also remember I had a pair of Nike that I think they were like mid-top SBs that I had custom. I did do them through Nike ID.
Yeah.
They were blue and purple and white. Key color. And I couldn't think of anything to put on the back, so I just put left and right.
Yes.
But again, they were probably the most comfortable pair of shoes I've ever owned.
And you'll never forget which foot they go on either.
Well, exactly. So there we go.
I remember those, yeah.
Yeah. So these were a great pair of shoes. I mean, I also had some running trainers from university that I chucked out like last week, but that was emotional. So got to move on from these things.
Yes, and it's always hard to part with shoes.
Definitely. I've seen people adapting their shoes now. So like when they get a bit run down, they'll cut the backs out and make them into like a slipper or a slider or whatever.
Yeah.
There's loads of recycling projects out there. And I know in America for a while, I don't know if they're still doing it, Nike were getting people to send back old shoes, and they were melting them down and turning them into basketball courts.
Yeah.
So lots of versatility out there for an old shoe. So
Yeah,
just because you're finished with it doesn't mean it's finished.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know if you've seen in obviously the Nike kind of adverts or anything, but they've made space hippies, they're called.
Okay.
So my knowledge of those isn't the best, but I'm sure it's either recycled shoes or it's recycled down, and that they've made the shoes out of those recycled materials. And I think there's about 4 shoes you can buy. So they're mostly towards running shoes and obviously kind of everyday style, but those are obviously attributing to reducing the amount of shoes that are thrown away into waste, like you said, and materials that go to waste. And they've turned them into another shoe now, which again was sold out within like a day.
Wow.
So the problem with Nike is hype sells, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's very true. Do you think that's the way the shoe market is going or needs to go? What do you think like the next big thing's going to be, next big improvement? Where do you think the market's going to go?
Well, I think that the next big improvement's got to be the self-lacing shoes, because Nikes have already done it. They've obviously patented it and they know what they're doing. So if the shoe companies like Adidas, Reebok, all the other ones don't kind of go down that route, then they've got to kind of find their own niche and their own idea. But
yeah,
I definitely that's probably the one way it's going to go. And then the other way is there's so many people now interested in buying shoes and wearing kind of the it shoe, like the Yeezys and things like that, that more people, not just basketball players or football players, more people in the wider community are becoming kind of sneakerheads just because of hype. So like Kanye West shoes, as much as probably they're not the greatest in the looks department or the style factor, I've never seen a shoe sell so quick.
Yeah, the big name.
The name sells it all. So obviously Adidas are onto a winner there just because they got Kanye West.
Yeah.
So maybe another company, if you're a lower company that's not selling much, you probably need to get a high rated basketball player or a celebrity on board, kind of to push your shoe along.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting. Like Travis Scott's got the Nike now, so he's selling absurd amount of shoes with like kind of the backwards Nike tick and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough to say. Kind of, do you think you've got an idea? If you owned the shoe company, what kind of would you do to push your shoes along?
For me, I think it'd have to be more of a sustainable shoe, a cleaner shoe. Something these big companies, I think, need to be at the forefront of, like we say, reducing carbon emissions, reducing wastage of products, and promoting, equality in the workplace and things. So sort of a shoe that looks incredible and feels incredible, whatever, but its main selling point is the fact that it is like completely recycled or from completely recycled materials or somehow developed completely cleanly. That's from a sort of, dream point of view, that would be incredible. But I also think they might start developing, or they might have already started developing, like a 3D printed shoe, and people are like buy it online, and it just prints out in your house.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't even know if that's a possible thing, but who knows?
Not at the moment, but who knows? The future's bright. And would we have sat down in university saying that Flyknit was going to be the next shoe?
Absolutely not.
Like all the LeBron shoes, a lot of those have all Flyknit stuck into them now. So, I wouldn't have saw that coming 5-10 years ago.
And on the note of looking back, before we start speaking today, I sent you through 4 classic shoes to have a little look at, to get your opinions about. I'll share mine as well. And what I'll do is I'll tweet each of the images out after we put this podcast up, so all you guys can have a look at which ones we're talking about. And we're going to start with an absolute classic, one you've mentioned already, and that is the Nike Air Jordan 1s. So the red sole, the black Nike tick with the with the red trim as well. What is your take on the Nike Air Jordan 1s?
I think, well, the shoe that started it all, I have to say.
Yeah.
Without that shoe, I don't think sneakerheads, the shoe business, and kind of style as it is, wouldn't be the same. And especially with the Last Dance being so recent to us, I think it just shows how iconic Jordan was and how influential he was to society, really, and especially with regards to shoes. So
you've only got to look at his company now and what it's worth to know the impact he's had on the shoe game, really.
Yeah, well, he's sitting in his mansion. He's earning more money now than he ever did as a player, purely through his name on the shoes, which is outrageous.
It's obscene, isn't it? It's crazy. If you had to give it like a score out of 5 or something, what would you rate this one?
Oh, I'd have to be a 5.
Yeah.
The shoe that started it all can't be less than 5.
It looks great as well, considering it was made, 20, 30 years ago now. It looks incredible.
And it's just so iconic. Like, if you think of Jordan, you just think of those shoes, don't you?
Yeah.
The shoe, that's what he wore. Like, it's hard to describe how good he was.
Yeah.
And it's funny seeing the developments going on. So when he played at the Knicks and he wore them again, how bad they were. That scene made me laugh. Going from obviously like his 6 or 7 shoe down the line, going back to the Air Jordan 1. He probably wasn't a bigger fan of it at the time.
Yeah.
But going into kind of street style and wearing them around, I think they just grown in so much popularity. It's no surprise that they release about 12 different colours a year and they keep releasing them.
Yeah, they're timeless, aren't they? Like I said, they're X amount of years old and still a gorgeous shoe.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely a 5 out of 5 from me too. We'll move on to the next one. Some say the first sort of iconic shoe in the NBA, the Chuck Taylor Converse 1s. What's your thoughts and feelings on those? The lovely pair I've sent you here is brown as well. Makes it
yeah, he definitely chose the best colour, didn't
he? I know.
So this shoe,
yeah.
The look again is a classic. It was an I Am Legend. Will Smith was a fan of them, wasn't he?
Oh, big fan.
That's probably the basis of the film, really. Just get the Chuck Taylors.
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, so that makes me laugh because it's like he unboxes them like they're a classic shoe, but it's the Converse from sort of 2004, or whenever it came out. It's just assuming that one was going to be another classic Converse shoe.
Yeah, very lucky to think that as well.
Yeah.
This shoe, kind of, for me as well, the reason it's so good is I'm a massive fan of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. So when they were kind of knocking about, the Converse was their shoe. So there's no Nike at that time. And, for them, wearing those shoes and obviously the competition they had. So Magic had obviously the purple and yellow shoe. Larry had the green and white. It's just kind of, it's a testament to their rivalry and how good they both were. So when I see Chuck Taylor now, after seeing their documentary, you're kind of just focusing on those two.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know if you agree, but whenever I see a Converse or Chuck Taylor, it always reminds me of baseball.
Baseball?
Baseball. I don't know why, but I just think it looks like a shoe that someone would probably wear if they were knocking about playing baseball.
Cleat.
A cleat. Or kind of like a street style baseball.
Okay, I get
you. An American kind of street kid. But I don't know, that's just how I see it.
I'm a fan of this shoe, but I think definitely not in this brown colour because that's horrible. But probably like in a lower, because the classic is that sort of mid-top, laces done up, well, mid to a high top. But I think I prefer it in a low one. I think I had a cheap version of this, but in grey with that white sort of shell capped toe that I loved. I wore those into the ground. So for me, it's got to be a nicer colour and probably the low cut for this. I've got a funny story actually about my co-host Liam and a pair of Converses. We Liam is a big shoe guy as well, and I'm sure we'll get his take on shoes at some point in the future, because you'll be coming back on at some point, Joel, to talk about some shoes again at some point, hopefully.
Yes, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
So we'll get Liam's take on all these shoes. But we went to a music festival, and Liam had just got a brand new pair of Chuck Taylor's Converse All Stars, bright white, red trim, and it tipped it down with rain. One of the muddiest festivals I've ever been to, and he ruined them. And I was like gutted for him, because they looked lush at the start of the weekend, and they were just like these shoes by the end of the weekend, this sort of colour. So yeah, I really felt for him, but at the same time, come on, it's a festival.
Yeah. Two unbroken rules there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't wear white shoes, and don't wear them at a festival if they're brand new.
Yeah.
Come on. Tick
the boxes there. Spot on. It's also where I bought a Cleveland Cavaliers flat peak as well. Good times, good memories. But we'll move on to the next shoe. Got to get one of these in here.
Oh, we got to get a score first.
Oh yeah, score. Sorry. Yeah, what have you got?
So for looks, I go for 4.
Yeah.
But personally, I've never really got on with Converse. I think they're quite hard soled and
very thick sole, aren't they?
Yeah, and I find them really flat. So when you're knocking about in them for quite a long time, they kind of really hurt the ankles and the foot. So kind of wearability, I'd probably knock them down. But for that kind of nostalgia and that kind of NBA factor to it in the early days, I'd have to say a 4, I think.
I'm going to go 4 in the low, 3 in the mid.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer them in the low. That's going to be my Chuck Taylor score.
Which is funny, because if you got the Air Jordan 1s, I think it'd be kind of similar if you went to highs and lows.
Yes.
Because I think the Air Jordan 1's such a classic, it's a 5 out of 5. But when it flips to a low, I think it kind of turns into more of a chunky shoe.
Yeah, not as nice.
So I think the score drops for me then on that as well.
Because same with this next shoe, actually. Spoiler, I much prefer it in the low. The high is ugly.
Yes, I agree with that.
It's the Kobe Zoom 4. What are your thoughts and feelings about this one?
Not a fan. Not a fan.
Ooh, controversial. Talk me through it.
I've always been kind of hit and miss with Kobe's. Like they either look really good or they just kind of look a bit bland, bit boring, bit bulky. And this, especially the one you sent me, kind of falls in that category. Looks a bit bland, looks a bit bulky. And considering some of the shoes they've churned out for Kobe over the years, it's probably on the weaker side.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of loses that kind of factor that the Chuck Taylors and the Jordans have, that it's kind of like, it's probably an exclusive to basketball shoe.
Yeah.
So if you saw someone on the street with a pair of jeans wearing the Kobe Zoom 4s, you probably would give them a few looks. Whereas if you saw someone with the Chuck Taylors or Jordan 1s, you'd actually kind of say, hey, they look good. So kind of utility-wise, it's not very good. And looks-wise, for me, I'm out.
Oh, he's out. Oh, my God. Range of accents.
What about you? I'm sure you love these. You love a bit of a chunky shoe, don't you?
Yeah. Give me this shoe. I'm a big fan of this one. I love the way it's cut. I like the difference between the front and the mid. And I like the signature along the back that's sort of, I'm going to say laminated in. There's a teacher coming out of me. And I love the black Nike tick with the purple splatter. If you look closely, it's in there. And the fact that they put the Kobe sort of Mamba logo on the tongue just sort of pulls it apart from other sort of generic Nike shoes you can get. If you show me the high top version of this, I would throw it in the bin. I think the high top Kobe's are dreadful.
Right, it's almost a high top though.
Oh no, the proper high
tops, the ones that go up to just under your kneecaps, yeah.
Essentially, yeah, they are no good. But I've never played in a pair of Kobe's, and I've always wanted to. I know Liam's got a pair of Kobe's. He's got a really nice pair. Have you ever played in a pair of Kobe's?
Yeah, I've got one pair. Back when I was in school, my mate went over to America for a holiday, and on request picked up a pair of Kobe's for me, which I dubbed the Iron Man.
Nice.
They were orange and red and yellow, sorry, and kind of put them on ice for a while. So didn't wear them for about 2 or 3 years, and then when I was kind of trying to decide what shoe to wear next, tried them on, and they were the kind of lows.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time I'd worn a low shoe, and I was quietly impressed actually. Like, they're responsive, light, quite good. Bit nervous about the ankles, but
Yeah.
no, it's good. And that's what I mean. Like with this shoe, because it's like obviously hindsight's a good thing. I know they've made better Kobe shoes, like nicer, stylish, sharper looking ones, better colours. But this one's kind of like really pushed back to the line.
Got
So, like, if I was in a shop and I saw those, I'd walk straight past.
Too bland.
Too bland and quite bulky and kind of like, from what I can remember, not a bit flat shaped as well. Kind of just like a generic shape of a shoe. Kind of something you'd draw up in the DT lesson if you were trying to design a shoe. It would just kind of be like, not much edges, just straight lines.
Here is shoe.
Yeah.
So out of 5, what are you giving those?
I'm going for a 3.
Oh, she's gone for a 3. I'm still up in the 4 for this one.
Oh, generous.
Can't quite give it the 5, but I'm a fan.
And you're brave.
I know. But here we go. This is a brave shoe. This is the final shoe we've got here to look at. The Reebok Shaqnosis. It is an iconic shoe to look at. That black and white sort of rounding pattern up the shoe with the Reebok in the middle at the bottom there. It's of its time. What are your thoughts?
But I think the only way they got him to wear that was they definitely hypnotised him to wear them. That's my thoughts on it. Not a fan at all.
I feel like this is a very of its time shoe. You can imagine Shaq in the 90s, early 2000s, in his prime, pulling this out and running up and down the court. You know what he's like with his shoes. He always likes to do something a bit different, like at the All-Star games, put a phone in one, turn one into a remote control car. This is right up his street. But for you, it's a no?
It's a no from me. Purely because I think it's clashing styles as well. I think it's a shoe designed for a big man.
Yes.
So for me, it's definitely off the table. And it's a very simple design. Like, you know, chuck a bit of purple in there, chuck some edgy patterns in. I probably would go for them. But white with the black circles, I think they definitely couldn't hypnotise me to buy one of those.
For me, I quite like that pattern. I'm about the black and the white. Those nice thick chunky lines. But the actual shape of the shoe, not big on. If that pattern was on a different shoe, I think I'd be right up there, giving it another 5. But shape of the shoe doesn't do it for me. Pattern does.
Yeah, you know, you put that pattern on Air Jordan 1, that's going to sell.
Yeah, easily.
You know? But put it on the Reeboks and it's going to stay on the shelves.
Yes, certainly nowadays. Maybe it'll come back around. Everything's cyclical, isn't it? Ups and downs, and everything comes around. And
you know, there's still people that think it's a good shoe. Still people that would wear it and buy it. But again, generically, they're obviously the big men with the size 14 plus feet.
Yes.
They can't fit in a Air Jordan 1, you know?
Yes, definitely. So on that note, what's your score for this shoe?
Oh, it's a 1.
Wow.
I don't like the look of it. It's not very stylish. I wouldn't want to wear it. And it's designed for a very large man. So I think to kind of market that would be very difficult as well.
Okay, I'm in at a 3.
Well, do you know any other type of Shaquille O'Neal Reebok shoes apart from the phone one?
Go on.
Do you? Question.
Do I know any others?
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head, no.
So that's, but you know other Kobe shoes, you know other Converses, other Jordans. So kind of testament to how good the shoe is. you only know of that one?
Well, actually, hang on.
Oh,
I was looking for some shoes the other day and scrolling through. I was getting some trainers for the gym and scrolling through Sports Direct. They've got a massive amount of Dunkman shoes on there now. That's his
right.
brand, isn't it? And it's basically him dunking as the logo. But I did scroll past every single pair because they are all horrible to look at.
And you little chunky shoes. If you don't like those shoes, there's not many people that will.
No good. No good.
So what do you give it?
Yeah, three. A 3 out of 5. Like the pattern, don't like the shoe.
So here's a question.
Go on.
We know how successful he was with Reebok. Not very.
Yeah.
Do you think he would have done better with a shoe if he was with a better brand, like a Nike or something like that?
I want to say yes, but at the same time, I think there's a trend of this throughout the NBA. Big man shoes are harder to market than a guard or a forward because a lot of people look at the player and look at the shoe, and as funny as that may seem, they think, I'm going to buy that shoe because I will put it on and play like that player. And
no one wants to play like a big man.
Well, apart from me. But the issue is, as well, is the most marketable players are usually guards and forwards, aren't they? If you want to play like Steph Curry, doesn't matter how big or how small you are, you can play like Steph Curry. So even the big men are looking at Steph and going, yes, I want a pair of those shoes. I'm going to shoot like him, even though I'm 7 foot. Whereas not many people are looking at, like you say, like a Shaq or whatever, someone with a big post-up game, or like Dwight at his peak when he had his shoes, he was quite successful, but still, those shoes are built for somebody who's going to be banging bodies, getting rebounds, not peeling off screens, hitting threes, and doing the stuff that looks really nice and clean and fancy.
Yeah.
So, I think.
But could they not just like make the shoe kind of multiple sizes? So obviously, if a Shaq was going to wear a shoe that maybe like, say, a LeBron shoe and a Shaq shoe were the same thing, couldn't they just make the styles vary through the sizes, kind of thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. It just
but
depends.
Obviously, marketing would be the issue of, like you said.
That's it. That's the big push. It's how are you marketing that shoe, and who is your marquee, like your pin-up player, and how many people can access that player.
Yeah.
Like I said, with Steph, anyone can be Steph because he's small. Like, well, I say he's small. He's big for a normal person, but he's small for an NBA player. And then every child can look at him and say, I can be him. Whereas physically, no one can be Shaq. So it instantly cuts out a big part of his market appeal.
Okay. So how about this? Does the company that the player has a shoe line for, would that make a difference to you buying their shoe? So I've got 3 examples. Steph Curry is with Under Armour. Giannis is with Nike. And Dwayne Wade was, I can't remember the company now, but it was with the
Chinese one.
Yeah. So obviously,
I think if you'd asked me this,
what would you buy?
5 years ago, I would have been Nike, hands down.
Yeah.
But I think every company's shoe has developed so far. Like, I think Under Armour as a brand has become massively popular, not just in the NBA and with the shoe, but, in rugby and football, whatever sport. So it's now more appealing. I have a pair of Under Armour rugby boots, in fact. And I have a pair of Puma rugby boots, which you probably wouldn't normally see, but Puma's got DeMarcus Cousins, hasn't it? And a couple of other people repping their shoes. So, I'd probably be more inclined to go with a Nike just because it's more familiar and I know that they fit my extremely flat and wide feet, which some shoe companies don't. Some are generally have a longer, thinner shoe rather than a wider shoe. But I would also be nowadays. I'd be more tempted to look around and shop around. Definitely. What about you?
I find it tough because obviously because I know how good Nike is and I played in Nike almost all my basketball time. I find it hard to go away from them.
Yeah.
And like, you know, out of those, I'd go Giannis first for Nike. Probably go the Way of Wage, and I think the company was Leaning. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And then the Currys, because Under Armour, like I'd wear their trainers, I'd wear their boots, but I'm always a bit nervous about trying their basketball shoes. No matter how much I think Curry's amazing, I still think it was Under Armour, so kind of peel away. And then I've always tried to get away of Wage, but I never seem to kind of be able to find them in the UK. I don't know if that's just me not looking in the right places, but they always seem to be a bit elusive. But to me, I think I'm such a big fanboy of Nike, and probably to my detriment, but I probably go them all the way.
Okay, that's fair enough. That sort of brand familiarity and loyalty does play a massive part, doesn't it?
Yeah, and even if I hated the player, I still probably wear his shoe. Kevin Durant, don't hate him, not my favourite player, but I still buy his shoe, you know? So
yeah, definitely. And I think that, yeah, if the shoe fits, you're going to play in it. So, brilliant. Well, Joel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And just let us know which team it is you play for. Maybe we can look out for them on the leaderboards there.
Yes, the Caerphilly Cobras. So we're in the South Wales Division 1. Because of the coronavirus, we came 4th this season.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll ever get that high again. But obviously, we can always aim.
Never know.
But hey, keep an eye on us.
Amazing.
Could be coming to a basketball court near you in the future.
Fingers crossed. And send me a couple of pictures of your chosen shoes as well. We'll get them tweeted out. And if the listeners at home have got some iconic shoes or some comments on the shoes that we've looked at, you can always tweet us at _Hardwood Hoops. I'd love to hear your opinions and your views and see some of your shoes as well, because I could spend hours, I'm sure, as Joel could, scrolling through looking at nice shoes.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely, yeah. Maybe too much time, in fact.
But time well spent sometimes.
Oh, well, I don't regret it at all. So thanks, Joel. Thanks for coming on, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Bye.